Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Jessica, and on Mondays I come on and share my weekly results on my carnivore diet. Now this week has been week 27, so 27 weeks of following a carnivore or carnivore autoimmune protocol, and I have a few things that happened. One, I failed. I ended up having pizza, which I haven't had any pizza in 5 months. So I'll be talking about that. I'll be talking about that in this video. I will also talk about, I was sick. I was not as sick as my daughter. I'll also be talking about that. And then I'll talk about what I introduced this week. Certain people sit there and say, well, that's not an introduction. But in my case, I feel that it is. So we'll be talking about that later in this video. So one of the things that I have goals that I have set that I want to meet each week. Being sick and completely exhausted and having to travel for work, one of those days messed up some of my goals. But so my goals are to get my sauna 4 times a week, to do somatic exercises at least twice a week, lift weights twice a week, close my move ring 6 times a week, and close my exercise ring on my Apple Watch 4 times a week. Now, the only 2 goals that I was able to meet this week was the sauna goal and the somatic exercises goal. And I came close to my exercise ring. I hit that 3 times this week. Not necessarily the 4, but the 3. And I was close, but I wasn't looking at my watch and paying that close of attention yesterday. Otherwise, I could have also met that goal. So that's where it is for my goals. Now, my results from last week, I gained 3.5 inches, but I lost 3.5 pounds. So with being sick, I know I was dehydrated. I was completely exhausted. I wasn't drinking enough. So I know my body was holding on to more fluids because of that, because I wasn't drinking. Normally I drink anywhere from 6 to 8 liters of water a day. And the one day I only had 2 liters, and I'm like, I know that was a huge adjustment for my body. Plus not being up and moving around, and just my body needing to rest. There are some changes there. So hopefully that's all on the mend and I can get back on track and get some more numbers moving in the right directions. So I have a few things that I'm going to be talking about on this. I'm going to be talking about the carnivore autoimmune protocol and what I've realized. I'm going to talk a little bit more about my sickness, the food I introduced, and my pizza temptation. So if you find this interesting at any point, go ahead, give me a thumbs up, like this video, so I know you're interested in what you like. And if you find any of this information useful where you want to share with a friend, go ahead, share this video with them, and you can put in the timestamp when you share it with them what where they should start watching, so they can go right to that point in the video. All right, so first thing I want to touch on is the carnivore autoimmune protocol that I started in September. Well, I started that to help with my thyroid, to stay off of thyroid medication. So I did that September, October, November. End of November, I got my results and was able to stay off of thyroid medication. Now, every week I've been doing an introduction, and so I just want to say that carnivore autoimmune protocol is very strict. It is very difficult. I was struggling, but I also knew that if I got the results that I wanted, I would be thankful. And I am very thankful I stuck with it for 3 months. Most of the time, people say do it for 30 days. My doctor recommended I do it for 3 months because of where my test results were for the biggest impact. And then each week now I am introducing something new. Now, just a few weeks ago, I introduced a seasoning, and it had a few nightshade peppers in it. And one of the things I've found when I'm reintroducing something and it doesn't agree with me, either at some point within 2 hours to 2 days, I have some type of reaction, whether it's a runny nose, a dry patches of skin, cough, those types of things. So I am able to identify what my body cannot handle or tolerate yet at this point, and I'm removing it and waiting to introduce that at another time. And then I try a different food the following week. So each week I'm introducing something new. This week I introduced just eggs. Now, if you've been following me, you know I introduced egg yolks and eggs in the beginning, but they were pasture raised organic eggs. And I was tired of buying pasture raised organic eggs, and with me not feeling good and being sick, I ran out of my eggs and I wanted something to eat. I wanted more eggs, and I didn't want to make an hour round trip to town. So I went to a local store here where I can't find in my local little shops. I don't have any organic eggs. So I bought regular conventional eggs. And so that's what I was introducing to see if I have any reaction to those. Because I was sick, I can't sit there and say if I got a runny nose because of it, because I've had a runny nose this whole time with being sick. So I'm going to continue this for the next week and see how that goes. So that was what I introduced, but I introduced the eggs mainly because my daughter got sick, and then I started getting a scratchy throat, and I was like, I do not want to have what she has. She had the flu. She was throwing up every half hour all day long, started early in the morning, went late through the night, the next day several times. It was coming out of both ends at times. It was horrible. And one of my big things is I cannot stand throwing up. So immediately I start getting a sore, scratchy throat, and I'm like, okay, only water and bone broth. I'm not eating anything. If I end up having any stomach issues, if I end up throwing up, I want it to be easy and painless. And so I was just water and bone broth for a while. And then when I wanted to eat a food, I was eating the eggs because I'm like, okay, that's at least easy enough to come up, and it'll give me some type of protein source, some type of extra energy, because I needed something other than just the pure protein source and from the broth. I needed more. So that's what I did while I was sick for those several days. I did not end up having the issue she did. I just ended up with extreme exhaustion, and on top of one day where my sinuses were just completely horrible and I was stuffed up, and that was even before I had the eggs. I was just on water and bone broth and didn't even introduce eggs at that point. And it was, I was just completely exhausted and trying to get enough liquids in. And that was my struggle. So and then the sinus pressure and drainage lasted one day that was really bad. And after that, it was tolerable, just runny nose here and there and coughing here and there. But the thing I suffered from the most was being exhausted. Now, my daughter was completely exhausted, but then she was also throwing up. Yeah. So that's that. But I'm finally feeling better. So I'm trying to get back on track and getting caught up on all my work things. And so I didn't have as many videos last week as I had planned. But hopefully I'm on the mend, feeling better each day. And we'll get the videos out this week as planned. All right, so my big fail this week was, it happened Friday afternoon. My boyfriend got back in town, and he called me up and said, "Hey, are the girls working tonight?" Which they weren't working Friday nights. I'm like, "No, they're home." He's like, "Well, how about I get pizzas and bring pizzas over?" I was like, "Okay, that sounds good." And I was sitting there going, "Oh, pizza's so tempting," right? And I can just do the toppings. That's what I told myself. I can just do the toppings, and I can handle that. But I knew it was going to be a few hours before he actually got ready, because he just got home from work. I knew it was going to be a few hours before he had got ready, come over, and order the pizza, and we'd be eating. So I prepared. I had eggs, and a steak before, and I had some bacon. I was cooking up bacon. I was making bacon jerky, and then I had some bacon that I cooked up, and I had that because I'm like, I really wanted to try it, just because I hadn't had pizza in 5 months, and it was really sounding good after not eating and feeling sick and feeling exhausted. It's just sounded so good. Something I didn't have to make sounded really good. So I prepared. I ate ahead of time because I'm like, I am not going to binge. I'm like, if I have 1 or 2 slices, I can do that and not binge, as long as I eat beforehand. And then I took some psyllium husk capsules. You can do the powder and mix it with water, but I do the capsules because I can't stand it gels up and having to swallow. I can't stand the texture, so I do the capsules. So I had a couple of those capsules to prepare, saying, if I do this will at least help with the digestion and stomach issues, because for me that usually helps. And even if you're on carnivore and you're having stomach issues and diarrhea or constipation, and in many cases that can help. And then we end up ordering the pizza, picking up the pizza, and we had an option for Supreme, which I'm like, I haven't had vegetables in how long? And I knew even if I just did even with just the toppings, the tomato sauces and seasonings, I knew I was going to have some type of reaction with all those nightshades, since the tomato's one of the nightshades as well. So I'm like, I'm going to have a reaction regardless. So I did the Supreme, tried it because it's been a while since I've had any Supreme pizza. And so did that. And it did not taste nearly as good as I was expecting. So, and then we got an all meat pizza, like a meat lovers type pizza. And so I had that and had those toppings. I'm like, okay, now that tasted better. And that, like, if I was going to have multiple slices, yeah, the all meat one was the one that tasted so much better. And I remember growing up, like, I always like wanted the supreme. And so that was a different experience. But even with the all meat pizza, I was still like, this isn't what I expected. This isn't what I had in my mind, or what my memory was of how good pizza was. And I'm like, this is totally not worth it. So within a few hours, I already had a runny nose. My nose is dripping. I'm like, okay, well, there's one of my typical reactions that I found so far when I'm reintroducing foods. Now, this was a whole gamut of different foods that I was introducing, mainly it was the cheese, the seasonings, the tomato, pizza sauce, and whatever else. So a whole gamut of things that I was introducing just with the one slice, with just one slice of pizza. And I did 2 different pizza slices. So those are the things I noticed right away that evening. Then went to bed, slept fine, woke up the next morning, took some more psyllium husk capsules because I muscle tested and my body's like, yes. So it needed that extra support. And so I took that. So overall, I did not have the diarrhea or constipation issues. And I really think it's because I was taking those capsules to help aid in that digestion process. But again, runny nose in the morning. I was coughing and hacking up things, hacking a little bit. And then another thing that I noticed when I introduced the seasonings is I had a rash, like right on my arm, right here. And it was almost like a heat rash, but not. And it was itchy. And I'm like, and that's when I remembered, I'm like, when I had the nightshades, I had a drippy nose, the seasonings a couple weeks ago, and I had a dry patch here, but this one, it wasn't just dry, it was red and itchy. It was like a full-on red rash on both arms. And I'm like, okay, so that's another side effect. Like, okay, so that's a no-no. I don't need pizza. And again, it did not taste nearly as good as I was expecting. I was really disappointed, actually. So that was my reaction of my pizza and what I'm going to say failure. And that could have played a part in the results this week with the measurements and the weight. I possibly could have had better results, but being sick, that was going to mess up things. I was already down. I was already feeling like crap. I wanted a pick-me-up. That was not a pick-me-up I wanted or expected. I was very disappointed in the pizza. So, note to self, something I learned, some of these things do not taste nearly as good as I remember. And my taste buds have changed dramatically just in the last couple months. So that was my big thing this week, is that pizza was really a letdown. So that's for World Carnivore Month. I was really wanting to stick strictly with carnivore, so I have already messed up with those 2 pizza slice toppings, but like, it was trial and error, and one of those things was in the moment. I took advantage of it, but I also prepared, and I didn't binge, and I'm definitely not going to be craving pizza anytime soon. All right. Well, that's my update for this week. I hope to see you later on this week as I'm talking more about my results and my reactions, and we'll see you next week.